serve as confirmation that, okay, you can't do a rotation in the playoffs. If they go down and they lose with the rotation, we go, okay, you can't do that. You need to pick one. Like, and that's fine with me. Like, but the idea that, oh, you can't do it. Why? Well, no one else has done it. Okay, well, has anyone else had the quality of a 1-2 that you have? No. So go with it and try it.
And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 180, presented by CLNS Media and sponsored by our good friends over at FanDuel. My name is Conor Ryan, and once again, we are joined by Ty Anderson of 98.5 The Sports Hub. Ty, how you doing?
What's going on?
I'm doing well, Ty. Again, for all of our listeners, happy Thanksgiving. I believe this episode is dropping on Thanksgiving morning, so as you're frantically trying to get the turkey ready, or you're microwaving a bunch of vegetables like I usually do, if you want to listen to us as we talk about the Bruins, start summarizing the first month plus of this year, thank you for listening. But everything's going well, Ty. Getting ready for the big holiday. Again, we've already had the discussion about Thanksgiving, Christmas, when to put up the tree. We're not getting into that discourse now, but do you like Thanksgiving? Are you excited for this time of year?
Yeah, I like Thanksgiving. This year I'm kind of hoping that I'm healthier for it. The last week and a half or so, I've had this really weird sort of, not cold per se, but like this chest thing, and it's kind of affecting my ability to be really hungry. And this is now, I think this is gonna be the third time in 5 years that I've been less than 100% for Thanksgiving. It's not my body clock is moving. I used to get sick every Columbus Day. Now I've noticed that I'm getting sick around Thanksgiving. That's not good. So hopefully I'm good to go, because nothing worse than being under the weather on Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, it's not good. There was one year where I was sick on Christmas. I felt like shit on Christmas Eve, and then I woke up Christmas morning, opened a few presents, and then I think I zonked from 10 a.m. until 9 p.m. Everyone left. And I finally awoke covered in sweat, finally broke the fever. But at that point, the party's over. Then you get into, it feels like there's nothing I think more depressing than the night of Christmas, where all right, well, the show's over. Now we get into January through March of darkness and misery. So that wasn't very fun.
Yeah, no, that is a real thing that's happened before. I think I slept through Easter one year because I was sick. So I know this exact thing you're talking about.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of darkness and misery, might as well do a quick summary of the Bruins' loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning, 5-4 in overtime. Could have had that win. Again, kind of very similar to the Anaheim Ducks loss at home. Win was right there, 2 points. Couldn't clear the puck, doing a little bit too much there. Leads to, again, you get 1 point out of it, but when you look at the way that game was going, of how it was looking like another statement win, right, where you come back from a third period deficit, so many guys pull on the rope. You have Coyle and Zaga have goals. Beecher has a goal. If that's a 2-point win on the road against Tampa, even without Vasilevsky, a lot to build from it. 1 point feels like it was a bit of a letdown given all those circumstances.
Yeah, I think because of the fashion in which you lost, it's hard to look at it and take moral victories. But if not for Jeremy Swayman, that game is over after 20 minutes. And so that's kind of how I look at it. It's really tough. Like I said, it's really tough to be like, oh, that was great, because they blew it in such spectacular fashion. But they really should have been in that game in the first place. That was probably their worst game of the year defensively. At least I felt. It's really interesting going from what was probably your best game of the year as a team on last Saturday against Montreal to your worst game as a team the very next outing. It's kind of been what they've been now for a little bit. So that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, no, these issues here, getting the puck out, they've been noticeable. They've been noticeable issues for a little bit now. And I think, according to Natural Stat Trick, that was their 6th time surrendering a goal against an empty net this year. That's tops in the league, and you're gonna have more exposure because they've been such a good team that they're going against empty nets quite a bit. But that's still too many goals. Six goals against empty net is way too many this year.
Yeah, and I feel like even if they get the 2 points in that game, it would have been similar to, I think it was the road win against the Sabres where, 5-2, you feel like that's a game they had handedly. And after the game, Montgomery's like, well, if we didn't have the goaltending, we'd kind of suck. Like that would feel very much like one of those games where even if Swayman stands on his head, the rush defense, the lapses in the D zone. I mean, the first period, Mason Laura had a pretty rough stretch there. And I mean, we won't dive too deep into this because I think we all know that how we feel about the fact that I think he just needs more time down in Providence. But it's not just him, like the bad gaps, like letting odd man rushes happen, not clearing the puck, not making sometimes this simple smart play that may not be flashy, but it gets the puck out of the net, lets your goaltender breathe, and lets you reset, change bodies out there. It's all stuff that if it isn't fixed, like you can only rely on your two elite goalies to continue to be a brick wall before that's going to catch up to you. And you kind of saw that in that game against Tampa. So
yeah, and it's not fair to ask your goalies to put a 950 up every night. It's not fair and it's not sustainable. So like they gotta either put these games away earlier with their offense, which you saw that against Buffalo and you saw that against Montreal, or you got to start just playing a little bit better, a little bit tighter defensively. So those are two options. I think they're more built for the latter than the former, but we're gonna have to wait and see.
Yep. The Bruins play the Florida Panthers tonight down in Sunrise. Obviously, we'll see what kind of comes of that game. Will be a tough test because Florida has been on a roll now. They have Brennan Montour back. They're getting more reinforcements. So be a really tough test for them on the road. So we'll see how they do in that game. It's a busy week for the Bruins because they go right into Black Friday against the Red Wings, Saturday against a good Rangers team. So bit of a tough test here for the Bruins, but instead of going game by game, Ty, let's keep it within the theme of Thanksgiving, and let's kind of focus most of this podcast on what should Bruins fans be thankful for this year. I think when your team is 13-1-3, there's a lot of thanks to go around. As much as there maybe are a few obvious candidates, but starting off for you, like what's one thing you think Bruins fans should be thankful for so far during 23-24?
I would say that the fact that Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha have been top six centers, in terms of their production and their numbers. We're not sitting here saying, okay, who's going to be the new Eric Holla because your second line center has been a complete black hole. Like, Zacha has 14 points. Coyle has, I think, 15 or 16 through 17 games. Like these are numbers that are top six quality kind of center. Now, are they perfect? Of course not. But you are not having to enter the Thanksgiving break going, oh my goodness, we have no centers. What are we doing? Like, this was a legit concern, I thought, because you go back to 2 years ago when they asked Charlie Coyle to be a top six center, it failed. And that led to Eric Holla, and that led to David Krejci coming back. Pavel Zacha was better as a wing than a center last year. Not to say he was good at both, but I think he was better on the wing. To not have to worry about either one of those two spots has just been ridiculous. And it's been such a good fortune for the Bruins because you're replacing Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci. Like, it's not like you're replacing two bums. Like, those are really good players. And to not have to worry about that, I think is really, like, you got to be thankful for that if you're a Bruins fan, because I admittedly didn't see it coming to this level. I thought they'd be fine. I didn't think they'd be this good. I thought their strength was going to be on the wings. And I think it's really been down the middle with the exception of, David Pastrnak being David Pastrnak. But I think their centers are doing a great job of carrying the load most nights.
Yeah, and I think going into this year, if you told me that both Zacha and Coyle would give you 45, 50 points, which I think would be, career highs or close to it, I think in Coyle's case, you'd be probably doing backflips, right? Of like, oh, more minutes, like they can make the most of those opportunities. They'd be really solid there. Again, I don't know if they're going to keep up this production, but right now Coyle's on pace, 72 points. Zacha's on pace for 34 goals and 68 points. Like, again, how sustainable is that? But you're seeing guys who are making the most of their opportunity under those heavier minutes. And we've kind of talked about this before. It's not just that, like, Montgomery is steering them into a bunch of ozone starts either. Like, Coyle is still primarily your shutdown centerman while giving you 70 points, which is an elite stat line for what he provides. And Zacha, even though bit more ozone time with guys like Marchand and especially Pastrnak, he's still, averaging over 2 minutes on the penalty kill, the best penalty kill in the league. So it's not like these guys are just getting a ton of reps, ton of easy assignments, and they're just kind of juicing up their numbers per se. they're developing into impact two-way centermen, which is what you've had here for over, close to 2 decades now. And it's, again, not to say that they are Bergeron and Krejci, but they're pretty damn good players in their own right, and you're seeing it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that when you don't have to sell the farm for a center, like it makes a big difference. And I still think they need a guy long term. Elias Lindholm, it would be my number one guy on July 1 if he makes it there. But to not have to sort of worry about it right now, it's allowing you to kind of explore some other avenues and explore some other, like, listen, if they weren't getting this play, do you think Matt Poitras is still here, or are they like, no, we need something a bit more stable there because our top two are not very good either? Like, so I just think there's been a trickle down effect that's allowed the Bruins to ice the best possible roster so far out of the gate.
Absolutely. And for my pick right now, I'm going to go a little bit off the board, Ty. I'm going to go a bit of a deep cut here. I'm just kidding. It's the goalies. It's without a doubt the biggest reason why you're 13-1-3. I think we all expected this was going to be a pillar of their strength based on how strong they were last year, but they've been as good, if not even better, when you look at just both of them playing at such a high level as opposed to last year where there's a little bit of a lull there where Swayman was hurt, took a little bit of time to get ready. Both those guys are, I think it's their, third and fourth in save percentage right now amongst qualifying goalies. Every single game you've had so far this year, you've had them give you a prime chance to win, not just staying in the fight, not like, a game where they're fighting through it. Like without them playing at this level, there'd be a couple of these games where it wouldn't even be close. It's not like losing by 1 goal. You'd be down, as you said, against Tampa, probably down by 3 goals pretty early on in that game. It wasn't for a guy like Swayman. So without a doubt, those two guys, not just to start this year, but throughout this season, even if the defense improves, the offense stabilizes a little bit, that's going to be your bread and butter. That's going to be the biggest reason why this team's going to go on a deep run is because of that talent in net.
Yeah, and, hey, kudos to Don Sweeney in the front office for not caving to the idea of giving one of these guys away last offseason to sign other players elsewhere.
No, we need Bertuzzi, Ty.
No, I mean, come on, be real here. I think this has been their absolute strength, and I think it's interesting that the first game they deviate from the rotation, the team defense goes out the window. You still get strong goaltending, but it's like maybe this is something that is a good thing for your team. Maybe like they like the comfort of the rotation, of going back and forth. Like it was weird. It was weird that they just completely had their worst game of the year the second they broke the rotation.
Isn't it funny that, there's for a sport like hockey where it's either, black and white in terms of like the tangible things like grit or physicality. And then there's like the underlying numbers, the analytics that gets the other side pissed and they go back and forth. What about like just the general vibes, right? It needs to be like a vibes per 60 or something like that. Because like when the Bruins have both those goaltenders rolling like that, they're on their game. Everything seems hunky-dory. Everyone's set and seems like they're in their best spots to succeed. So don't mess with it. Like we saw that last year. When you have to like summarize that first round exit last year against the Panthers, and you can look at the tangible stuff, the forecheck, defense regressing, Ullmark, whether he's injured or not, vibes were off, man. That team looked like it got punched in the mouth early on, and they just didn't know what to do. And that's something you didn't see for the first 5-6 months of that entire season. So beyond like just like the rest, the production you're seeing from both goalies, it seems like everyone's just at their best and everything is copacetic when you got that goalie rotation going back and forth. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why I'm not messing with it. That's why, like, and I've gotten into this debate. If you know me, you've seen me get in this debate with Mike Felger, but I would be shocked if they enter the postseason and do not have the goalie rotation. I would be legitimately shocked if we get to game 1 and the Bruins aren't trotting out, Jeremy Swayman or Linus Ullmark, but then by game 2 or game 3, you're seeing the other guy. Like I think that's really going to happen this year. I'm almost convinced of it. The tenor around that discussion this offseason and in the wake of the playoff loss was so strong that I'd be shocked if they don't do it.
Yeah. And it's almost like I would rather, and let's say they do it again and they come up short in a 7-game series, which would suck, would not be great. But like, I would much rather have them go down with the ship with like their bread and butter, how they've built the identity of this team, as opposed to shifting on the fly and switching things up and being a team that's not what we saw through the first, few months of the year. It's like if like the Celtics against the Heat all of a sudden just stopped taking threes. Again, was it the best strategy? Probably not, but like at least they went down with the ship of like, this is our success, this is what we've done all year. And I think when you look at just the about face that they had throughout that Panther series, just it seemed off. Like I would much rather you go back and forth and go through the ups and downs of like, all right, well, Allmark had a good game one. Swayman was okay in game two. They still won, but do we keep the like? I'd rather have that exhausting narrative and that discussion before every game in April and May, which I know is going to happen, but they keep that rotation in place as opposed to deviating from the script and just feeling like not a foreign or a different team from what you've seen all year, but just you're going away from what got you to that point. Just go down with the ship if even that's what the case is going to be this year.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that too is that it would serve as confirmation that okay, you can't do a rotation in the playoffs. If they go down and they lose with the rotation, we go, okay, you can't do that. You need to pick one. Like, and that's fine with me. Like, but the idea that you can't do it. Why? Well, no one else has done it. Okay, well, has anyone else had the quality of a 1-2 that you have? No. So go with it and try it.
Yeah, it's I think we talked about this before. It's like if Bob Cousy or one of these guys watched the Golden State Warriors during their dynasty, be like, what the fuck is this? It's like, well, the sport changes. And if you got the two best 3-point shooters of all time, maybe you have a starting lineup where your biggest guy is like 6'8", and look how it worked out for the Warriors. So again, different sport, but again, don't deviate from kind of what's got you there. So before we go further on into our discussion of what Bruins fans should be thankful for, Ty, let's take a quick break, hear from our sponsors at FanDuel.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use and you can bet on everything from spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And frankly, that's the best part about FanDuel, that you can bet on anything. You want to bet on how many wins the Patriots are going to have this year? Be my guest. Maybe how many shutouts Jeremy Swayman is going to have this season? Go for it. You can really do it all. So bet now on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Once again, shout out to our sponsors over at FanDuel. All right, Ty, let's go through, give each one more thing that Bruins fans should be thankful for. What's your next option here?
I think you have to be thankful that the cap crunch that they went through only cost them one player. Like watching Tampa last night, I was very, or on Monday night rather, it was noticeable to me that they are just so top heavy now. Like they are a team that they've been through what you went through this past offseason, years of it, multiple years of it, of having to basically give away your core players, your stronger players, because of the salary cap. And what you see with the Lightning now, that team is they're still a game under 500. They're 9-10 now. They're like, if you factor in their overtime losses, like that is a team that is so top heavy, and you being in a 6-on-4 at the end of the game, that played to their only strength. They have all this high-end, top-end skill that they got to run into the ground. So the fact that the Bruins cap issues only cost them Taylor Hall, I think that's a win. And you got to be happy about that, because you look around the league and you see what the cap can do to teams. For you to escape that, right, and to bring in value signings that have been, for the most part, value add, I think that's something that is kind of flying under the radar. That is hard to do. Like it's hard to nail down signing veteran players who still have something left in the tank, but also to navigate through a cap hell and only lose one player. I think that's a very impressive. The more I think about it, the more I realize how impressive it was for the Bruins to come out of that with just one loss, really.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, Ty, because I remember in the middle of July, people were mad because the Bruins didn't want to stop the presses, not do anything, don't sign anyone and wait to hear what Tyler Bertuzzi and his agent were going to do. Wait a whole day as everyone signed. It's like, no, them like being aggressive within the parameters of what their spending limit was, which was not a whole lot. Like them getting guys on the first day of free agency, like a Van Riemsdyk, like a Shattenkirk, like a Geeky. It's all paid off for them, right? Like again, the Bruins could not have. It wasn't like the Bruins had one or two roster spots that they were going to have to fill, and some of it was internal. Like they had so many different holes that they had to be aggressive with finding value deals, because I don't know if JVR is out there the second day or like Morgan Geeky at his age. So yeah, it was a really good move by the Bruins to get those guys. And again, like JVR is a guy that we've kind of talked about before as being kind of an unsung hero, but he's on pace for 60 points. Like hell, even if he takes a big step back and he ends up with only 40 for 1 year, 1 million, you will take that for what he's provided so far out of the gate, because he's been money in that role.
Yeah, and think about this. Taylor Hall was making $6 million. You mentioned some players there. You turned that $6 million into 6 players, essentially, between Heinen, Mitchell, JVR, Shattenkirk, Geeky, and then you want to throw Patra in there as well because of his entry-level deal? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
But you turned that one player into 5 or 6 players. Like, you maximized it. You truly maximized it, and that's what you got to do. And so I think you got to be thankful that it wasn't like, okay, we're going to nickel and dime ourselves here, and we're going to get rid of Taylor Hall, Matt Grzelcyk, and one of the goalies. Like, I think that's when you notice it. Even if you kept Bertuzzi or you kept whoever you wanted, Hathaway, whoever it was you wanted to keep from last year's team, like, you would feel it. You would notice it every night, much like I noticed the Lightning, just a team that the bottom of the roster, the bottom of their defensive depth chart, you notice it. You notice that they have been through some cap hells, 1 or 2 now, and they're starting to kind of feel it, I think, overall.
Can you imagine poor Brendan Bussey, his first year in the NHL, just having to deal with like rush defense like that, or like nice Bertuzzi giveaway in front of the net? Wasn't great. Brendan Bussey's a good goalie, but let him cook, as the youth say. Let him cook down in Providence and keep your really strong goalie rotation in place. That's been kind of the winning formula there. That's a great one, Ty. I think I'll go with some of the more unsung heroes on the blue line. I think when you look at the defense, everyone looks at Charlie McAvoy. And again, I think he's made really strong strides this year offensively, 13 points in 13 games. Maybe he will finally get viable consideration for the Norris, even though Quinn Hughes is going sicko mode out in Vancouver, so that's not really helping his case. But still, he's making strides in some of the very few areas where I think there was more to give there. But I'm going to look at 2 guys, Brendan Carlo and Derek Forbort, who I think have been money beyond their usual areas of strength. We know how good they are in the PK. They've got the best penalty kill unit in the NHL, the Bruins do. But I think Carlo's playing the best hockey of his career. Tough D-zone time, still been a shutdown player. Next to him is Lindholm. I think the Bruins are outscoring teams by 7 goals when Carlo's out there. And I think Forbort's probably been the biggest surprise in terms of just his 5-on-5 play, because that's kind of been their narrative surrounding him for a long time, right? Like, great on the PK, 5-on-5, kind of limit those reps there. And I mean, so far out of the gate, he's been really strong. I think the Bruins are outscoring teams 10-2 when he's on the ice at 5-on-5 play with 30% ozone starts. Like, you got to give Forbort credit because right now he's been a plus player in that spot in the lineup.
Yeah, and admittedly, he was a guy that I had some concerns about, both staying with the Bruins and what his impact would be. I entered the offseason saying, $3 million for a bottom pairing D, that might be too expensive for this team. And I thought there was a legit chance that he if they couldn't find a trade partner, he was going to get bought out. Like, that's how tight their cap situation looked like for a while there. So for him to rebound and play the way he's played, I think he's been really good. And, his play is a big reason why I have been saying send Mason Lohrei down. Like, the idea that, oh no, he'll just replace him. It's like, he's not doing that job. And he's not doing that job. He's not doing it as effectively as Derek Forbort has done it. I get it. I get that people are saying, okay, well, the future is here. Okay, well, the present's here too. This team is a little better than we thought they were going to be. So expectations have changed a little bit. So I think that with that being said, for a guy like Mason Lohrei to stick, he has to force somebody out. And to your point, Derek Forbort has done nothing to make me go, yep, you got to force him out. Got to put him on waivers. Got to trade him. Like, no, he's valuable. He's a valuable piece of this team. So I agree with you about Derek Forbort and Brandon Carlo for that matter.
Yeah. If like Forbort was at this point of the season where great on the PK as we all expected, but like at 5-on-5, the Bruins were outscoring teams 8-6 in his time, or even it was like even closer than that. You could like make the argument that maybe, Laura could warrant that spot. But if you give Mason Lohrei 30% ozone start time and PK work, you're again, the argument of like, the guy needs to learn on the fly in the NHL. Not when your team's like potentially a contender, right? Like let that guy have 25 minutes down in Providence and then have him in the best spot. Because as much as you want to like throw guys into the fire or have them learn on the fly in the NHL, it's not going to do any confidence to a young defenseman if he's just going to get pulverized under like super taxing minutes, right? Like it's like Charlie McAvoy. Like, Charlie McAvoy is one of the best defensemen in the league, but he didn't get thrown into the fire on a third pair, starting on the PK, starting with, those kind of reps. Like, all right, Mason Lohrei, like go out there every night against the Matthews or the McDavids or what have you and see how that goes. Like it's one thing to like have this guy, get that baptism by fire. Another thing to like completely chip away at a guy's confidence if you're just putting him in a spot where he's not equipped to handle that night in and night out. You don't have to do that when you're this Bruins team that's this deep.
Yeah, and the other part of that too is that I think that McAvoy got thrown in the fire, but was fine. Yeah. I don't think that Lohrei has been as good as people want to tell me he's been. Entering the Florida game, he's been on the ice for over half of their even strength goals they've given up since he's been called up.
It's not great.
His again, I don't care if you care about this or not, but his Corsi, which tracks your shot attempts on for and against, is one of the worst in the league since getting called up, despite being top 10 in zone starts. I mean, like that he's not passing any sort of test beyond you want him to be ready and you like the tool set. I like the tool set too, but I'm looking at him saying this team A misses Matt Grzelcyk, and B, I don't think he's ready for the prime time yet, and that's fine. It's not saying that he's going to hell and you hate him. It's just that he's not ready yet, and that's fine. But I think there's been an element of us trying to will him into being ready when he's not ready yet. And I think Monday night in Tampa showed it. He had a strong rebound shift in the third period to set up that David Pastrnak goal. But overall, this is a guy you have to manage. You have to hyper-manage him. And a coach wants to win games. And I don't know if this is sustainable for them when they're fully healthy, because they're going to want to win games every night. And I don't know if you can constantly fiddle with your pairings because you want to protect Mason Lohrei.
It's a fair and rational take, Ty, which I'm sure will not be echoed by social media or anything when the day comes that Lohrei gets sent down to develop down in Providence, not sent to Mordor, the Gulag, whatever people think the AHL is. But
yes,
make all very fair points there. All right, well, that was our main segment there on looking at why Bruins fans should be thankful. Let's end this one with another Thanksgiving theme here, Ty. What's the best and the worst dish at Thanksgiving? What's your best?
All right, best is sweet potato casserole. This is gas. This is straight up delightful. You can top it with brown sugar or with marshmallows. I like them both. This is basically like a candy store dish served on Thanksgiving. So I have to go with this being my number one. It's my favorite. I don't know if they're going to have it where I go, but either way, if you have some sort of Thanksgiving buffet, that's where I'm going right away. That's what I want, because it is the absolute best. And it's one of those things that like you really can't just find like anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like you can go to a restaurant and they just have that regularly. So like this is when that dish comes to shine. So this is where the spotlight's got to be on that for me.
It's almost like a precursor to like dessert, where it's got like so much like sugar in it that you're like, all right, like I'm here for, the main courses, but like you got to save some room when you see all like the pies stacked up, the cookies, like you got to wait for that. It's a good way to like to get you started there of what it's going to be. So that's a good underrated pick. Mine's mac and cheese, which I think has some discourse going around. People don't think it's a Thanksgiving dish. I don't give a shit if it's January 1st. I don't care if it's Valentine's Day. I don't give a fuck if it's July. I will eat mac and cheese any day. And if Thanksgiving is all about getting the best meal, best food out there, give me a plate of mac and cheese. I will crush mac and cheese.
Oh, that's a great pick. I mean, it all depends what kind are we talking here? Like, because I don't like that out of the box shit.
No,
But if you get a good like baked mac and cheese, hell yeah. That's kind of how I feel about it. But I can't see why. I mean, every dish is a Thanksgiving dish. I don't know. Like
who gives a shit?
Yeah, like my family would make like lasagna on Thanksgiving some years. I don't know. It can be whatever the hell you want it to be. That's how I feel about it.
Absolutely. Once again, a rational take from Ty, along with Mason Loray. Ty, what is your least favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Can I just say like turkey? I don't really like it.
Yeah, that's mine too.
Turkey. I don't really like it. I don't need it. I'm good. Like I barely like it in non-Thanksgiving settings. Like I can have like a turkey club, like if you want, no bacon, but like I don't know, like it's not. I've never understood the idea of centering Thanksgiving around turkey. It's not that great of a protein, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would much rather have like a ham, even, or like a little roast beef, or honestly, if like someone like grilled steaks, I would eat like a fucking steak. I guess my main protein there, but like turkey, nah, like it's either way too like dry. It's like it's too much of an undertaking. Everyone hates when you have to be the guy that is making the fucking turkey.
Right.
Like whoever it is, you just leave them alone. Because it's like the episode of like The Bear. Like they're fucking sweating. Like they don't know how long they should be cooking for. They're grossed out because they take all the gizzards out of it. And also, let's not forget, the bird itself just sucks. It's like a shitty fat bird makes a god awful noise. Like I was talking about this with Evan because Evan shared the same thing, that turkey sucked. It's like no wonder the pilgrims saw that behemoth in the shrubbery and took them out. Like they were like,
this gotta go.
Yeah, this thing, I don't know what the hell this is. Sent by Beelzebub to take us out, like when they saw that critter. So no, turkey sucks. It's a trash dish. It's a blight on an otherwise lovely holiday known as Thanksgiving. So that's our takes. I'm sure we'll post this and get a lot of discourse, but we don't care. Turkey sucks. But beyond that, we hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Ty, before we let you go, where can we read your stuff?
98filesportshub.com. You can also find me on Twitter @_Ty Anderson. How about you?
Ty, you can read all my stuff over at boston.com, and you can follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it is, @Conor Ryan _93. Once again, want to thank Ty for appearing on the show, and for everyone listening, to our loyal fans who follow us throughout the season. We're very thankful for you, but listening to our podcast, reading all of our stuff, following us online. It's a time of year where I think we're all express how grateful we are to have this opportunity to interact with fans, both when the discourse is good and bad. I think we both agree we wouldn't trade it for the world. So thank you all for listening, reading, all that good stuff. Thank you for listening along with this latest episode of Poke the Bear. You guys have a great Thanksgiving or a great rest of your week.